Good afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Welcome to another edition of the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. I am very, very pleased that you are all here with me today. I've got another wonderful show in store for you today. But first, of course, we have my blog post from a couple of years ago. And in case you don't remember how I got started reading my blog posts at the beginning of the show, I did it after I used to start reading a little section of my book, Everyday Awakening, at the beginning of my show, which has 126 little sections. And after a couple of years, I didn't have anything left. So I was like, what do I do now? So I started just picking out blog posts, just taking them in order from a couple of years ago. And so this is the next one in order. And this blog post is entitled, "The only limit to our abundance is our ability to receive." We all make choices in life. Our choices truly affect the kind of life we live. We either live in abundance or scarcity. It really all comes down to one thing. You might think it is about visualization or thinking positive. Maybe you feel you have to have the perfect vision board. And while all these things may help you to attract the kind of life you want to live, there's still one important factor we don't often think about. Because this one aspect of life is something we take for granted and usually don't spend much time on. It is unfortunate, for this one aspect is the key that opens the door to unlock the floodgates of all we desire. And it is probably not what you think. Ultimately, the key to having a good life is about how much we are willing to let in. Yes, it is about receiving. We think we are good at receiving and that we allow the very things we want into our lives. Yet, do we really allow life to support us to the fullest? When someone offers to open the door for you, do you allow them to do it? If someone gives you a present, do you initially push it away or do you accept it with gratitude? When a friend offers to do something for you, do you tell them it's not necessary, especially when you could use the help? These are all little indications of how good you are at receiving. For the level of fulfillment and joy in our lives is only limited by how much we are willing to let in. How big does a present have to be for it to feel uncomfortable for you? That's the level of abundance you are comfortable with, and life cannot bring you anything more. Not because life is unable to manifest more, but because you are unable to allow life to give it to you. So many of us are so comfortable with receiving, uncomfortable with receiving, and we do not even realize it. Can someone throw you a big party for your birthday without you feeling embarrassed or uncomfortable? That can be a big indicator of where you are in terms of your ability to receive. If you want to improve your capacity to allow more good stuff into your life, start with the small things. Let someone open the door for you. Allow them to give you a small gift. If they let you go ahead of them in line, just say thank you and mean it. Being grateful when we receive something is the best way to allow more in. Our gratitude is a way of signaling to the universe that we appreciate the gift and we can receive even more. So, where in your life do you push away life's gifts? Can you start to allow more into your life by learning to receive just a little bit more with gratitude. So I wrote this a couple of years ago after me and my wife had a little discussion about this, and I think it was a good friend of ours was wanted to give her something expensive, and she was like, "No, no, 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 no," and she didn't want to take it, and I had to kind of cajole her into, "Yeah, come on, receive it." And so it kind of just brought up for me, and I decided to write about it because I see it so often and so common that people say they want abundance. People say, "Oh yeah, I want like an amazing life like that." But if you pay attention to their daily habits, to the little things, do they really allow themselves to receive? Now, I'm gonna say something that's a very broad generalization. It's not always true, and this may get me in a little bit of trouble, but I'm okay with that. Because in my life, my observation is men are actually a little bit better at receiving than women. That have actually found women have a harder time receiving expensive gifts, receiving something from life and pushing away. No, I don't need that. No, it's okay. No. I'm not saying men don't do that, but what I've noticed is men's tolerance for receiving is a little bit higher in general, and this is not always true, but in general, a man's ability to receive is usually a little bit higher than a woman's. And I think that just kind of shows the societal bias that men have to go out there and work hard and bring in the money, so men feel they deserve it because they work hard. Not that women don't work ridiculously hard, raising children, taking care of the home, going out and work. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's just society's conceptions that we're all sort of brought up and live into. I think younger people today are much better about it, but this conversation just brought it up, and so I kind of wrote this blog post that was sort of a culmination of all the things I've learned about abundance and receiving. Because I did have one mentor, and he told the story of how, when he asked his teacher, how do I, receive more? He said, when someone opens the door for you, say thank you. And then he said he was like at the grocery store the next day, and had this two big bags of groceries. And he was walking to the exit, and someone said, "Oh, can I get the door for you?" He goes, "No, no, no, that's okay." And he just pushes the door open with his shoulder. And then he realized, oh my God, I'm doing the exact thing that my teacher said not to do. And then he started to be more conscious about it. And so he had related this story to me years ago. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And so I've worked really hard at being good at receiving when somebody wants to give me something. And that's all kinds of things. Like, I don't care what it is, because my view is I try not to take it personal. In other words, it's not the individual person sort of giving me the present, it's life is giving me the present to support me in what I do. So, somebody wants to take me out for dinner. I think this is what kind of caused this conversation between me and my wife. I think we went out for a dinner with a friend, and it was two of us and one of them, and she insisted on paying for it. And my wife was like, no, 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 and trying to fight over the bill. And I'm like, let her pay. It's okay. Let her pay. Um, and so that's like a little indication. If you go out to dinner with somebody and they want to pay for dinner, do you let them? Do you argue with them? Do you negotiate with them? Do you say, oh, let me get the tip then? Just say yes. I mean, look, we don't got to be pigs about it. As my mom would say, don't be a schnorrer, don't be a pig. But just say yes. And just say it with real appreciation and gratitude. And realize that it's life's little way of supporting you and saying, here, you're worth it. Here's more. So I learned a long time ago and I've really practiced a lot and I think I've gotten pretty good at receiving. Can I receive more? Absolutely. I would love to receive more abundance and I would appreciate it tremendously. And I know I have the capability to. So my invitation for this week is to notice for yourself, how good are you at receiving? How good are you at allowing somebody to open the door for you, give you a little present, give you a big present? Where does that start to feel uncomfortable? Where do you know, like, oh, I'm okay receiving something worth this much, but I'm not okay receiving something worth that much? And look at that. Why not? Because in the end, our ability to receive ultimately always comes down to our self-worth. The more we value ourselves, the more we're willing to allow life to support us, the more life will support us. I've seen it over and over again. So that's my invitation for this week. When you tune in next week, let me know. How did you do with the abundance exercise? Did you allow more in? Did you let somebody do something for you that you normally wouldn't? Did you receive a present that you just allowed in or not? It's okay if you don't. Just notice it, be more mindful, and then maybe next time you will be able to receive more. So that's my blog post. It's entitled "The Only Limit to Our Abundance is Our Ability to Receive." And you can find my blog post, of course, on talkradio.nyc/blog. And if you like my blog post, please check out my book. It's on Amazon. It's on and all the major booksellers. Everyday Awakening. You are more powerful than you know. It's filled with little vignettes and the little short little things for you to read that are just like my blog. And of course, you can always find it on theconsciousconsultant.com, my personal site. All right. Now, it is my extreme pleasure to welcome to the show information technology entrepreneur and performing music impresario Bill Protzmann. Bill's personal mission is to raise awareness of the power of music for self-care. He has more than 30 years of experience teaching people the power of music for mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. And his students range from leaders in the C-suite to people living on the street. In 2011, Bill launched Music Care Inc., a for-purpose corporation to teach and advocate for practical ways music can be used for your self-care. In 2014, the National Council for Behavioral Health recognized him with an award of excellence, the industry equivalent of winning an Oscar. In 2023, last year, Music Care Inc. launched Musimorphic, an innovative brand with a mission to improve wellness, transformation, and joy, improve friendships and relationships, and revive the play, fun, and healing power of music. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Bill.
Sam, I'm listening to that bio, and I don't know what it means to have received an Oscar from a behavioral health organization.
Yeah, that was a good one. I never heard of that before.
Should I leave that in?
Absolutely, absolutely. That'll raise some eyebrows.
Oh, musicians are crazy. So I guess getting an honor from an organization that's about interfering with craziness is a good thing.
Hey, didn't I just talk about receiving?
Right? Right. And I received it.
Very good, very good, very good. So
Oh,
I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming you've been a musician most of your life?
most of my life. Yeah. Mom was a piano teacher. And I can
Ah,
still play both of the songs that I learned when I was 3 years old and I was student number
wow,
one, right? So I can still play both of those songs, not like they're hard.
wow.
But yeah,
That
so
was
I've
your
been in
first
this.
in, was that your first instrument, the piano?
Yep. First, I've
Ah,
played a bunch since then. I went through in middle school in California. We still had music programs when I was in middle school. So I've learned to
uh,
play the clarinet and the saxophone and drums and all kinds of percussion and the French horn and goodness knows, I mean, there's a bunch of things in
Wow.
addition to the piano.
Uh,
Piano is hard to move. You know, you have to have something you can carry if
Yeah.
you want
That's why guitar is so popular because you can always
it.
just
Right,
grab a guitar and take it with you. Um,
exactly.
I'm curious, when you were a kid, did you, because your mom and you were so surrounded by music, did you feel like you were gonna go make a living being a musician when you grew up,
Oh,
or were you
gosh,
just doing
no.
it because it was expected of you?
I think the expectation was there, but making a living with music was never something that, you know, as a classical piano player, that I considered seriously.
Mm,
The world of classical piano, even back then, was dominated by people who were monstrous, just
yeah,
incredible talents. These days, it's different because there are so many people who are monstrous.
yeah.
So the domination that existed when I was growing up has spread out now, fortunately, and we can see all kinds of, not just in classical piano, but in the music world in general. There's
Mm,
so much, it's so rich. There's so
mm,
much talent that, you know, thanks to the digital world, we can now observe and see and interact
yeah.
with and consume and all the other things they tell us to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, Bill, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to learn about how did you go from just being a musician to like realizing it can help with healing and self-care and all that other stuff? Because that's not something you commonly think of in general. So
Oh,
I'm,
is that
I'm
crazy? Why wouldn't we
yeah.
think that? So yes.
Very good question. Very good question. Hey, I'm supposed to ask the good questions. I'm the
Ha!
host. All right. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 9 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on talkradio.nyc and all over social media on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Twitch. And we will be right back with our guest, Bill Protzmann, in just a moment.
Are you a conscious co creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity. I see we already have a comment on one of the live streams. Our loyal listener, Sanaya, says, "Hi, family. Music is the lifeblood to me. I played many instruments growing up." Ah, that's wonderful to hear, Sanaya. I think a lot of us, I didn't. I was always lousy at music. So musicians always fascinated me, but it's wonderful to hear. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who musicians growing up. And I think it really does uh, become so important to us as we grow. But I'm really curious, Bill, how did you go from just being a musician and coming from a very musical family to this idea of using it to help people to heal, to support them in their process, to whatever? What kind of was the genesis of that? Because you don't often think of that.
Isn't that interesting? My objective here is to get it to be more often that we think of those things.
Yeah.
I love your question, Sam. So, if you're a performing musician of any kind, you have to have an audience. And paying
Hmm.
attention to what's happening in that audience is something that started to fascinate me very early on. I think fifth grade, I became aware of what was happening out in the room, and that the conversation between the performer on stage and the audience was part of the performance.
Hmm.
And nurturing that conversation was a really important thing in any performance of any kind, whether you're giving a speech in front of people or playing an instrument. So that began to fascinate me. And over the years since The Sting came out, I'll date myself.
Ah,
Uh,
I love this thing.
I started, I noticed this when I started playing ragtime, but since The Sting came out, it's been a while, and we've had tons of research and inquiry into generically the power of music, whether that's playing an instrument or singing or listening. The research is compelling. And it's something that musicians have known for thousands of years. Thousands of years. This predates the age of reason and all of that
Mm.
stuff. One of my favorite bloggers, Ted Gioia, his blog is called The Honest Broker, is just doing a land office business in raising awareness for how this thing that we call the power of music has been with us as a civilization prehistorically. It's really part of who
Mm.
we are. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
call it,
yeah.
vibration and frequency and all that's great, fine. But it's, we vibrate, we're vibrational beings. Everything in the universe vibrates, with the exception of this wonderful thing called quantum entanglement, which we can talk about, because quantum entanglement happens much faster than vibration or frequency. But um, I began to notice this and, of course, started to do the study. And there came a point in my life, yeah, musicians, I said, we're crazy. My particular craziness is a chronic depression. And I
Okay.
found myself at a point in life where I have been suicidally ideated, but where I found that that was trending more toward a crisis. And at that point, I realized that I had an amazing tool that I could use to intervene with this. And so I used
Mm.
music, and it literally, I mean, Sam, it saved my life. I would not be here
Mm.
talking to you today if that moment had not happened.
Really?
And the
Mm.
more important thing, I think, for those who are listening about this is that having the courage to wander down that shadow journey with
Mm.
intention and a tool in my backpack, right, that I
Mm.
could use, um, that's a very powerful thing for people to understand and do. We spend so much of our time pushing it away, like, no, no shadow
Right.
journey for me. I'm fine right here. I'm happy. I'm comfortable. But the opportunity to take that journey in safety has always been a component of music. Always, always. If you're
Mm.
listening to this, hear me, nothing else but this point, the opportunity to safely explore the darkest, deepest parts of our pain with music has
Mm.
existed for thousands of years. And
Hmm.
take advantage of that is what I hope that everyone will do.
I just learned this past weekend, I was with my mentor out in New Jersey, and the indigenous tribes in South America, they have this tradition of Icaros, of the
Yes, I
songs
was
they
about to go
sing.
there.
Eh, And and he said that, like, these tribes had long before they had musical instruments, they had their chants, they had these singing, and then as musical instruments were introduced to them, then they became singers and musicians, and that became part of the healing. But even before that, like 3,000 years ago, they would chant,
Yeah,
they would
yeah,
use the power of their voice and their song to really support and enable the healing.
yes. This is who we are.
Yeah.
Humans are this, right? We vibrate. And if you can put that in your head, like if you can get the vibration going in your head by singing or humming, humming's a great one. The music
Hmm.
therapist that I love says when you're humming, you're not thinking. So talk
Ah.
about intervention for that. You
Yeah.
can hum, or if you have the skills to do it and can play the upright double bass, that they play in the symphonies, that
Mm-hmm.
vibration right against your chest, or the violin against your
Mm.
cheek, or in my case with the acoustic piano, this doesn't work with a keyboard. I can feel the vibrations of my fingertips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That fundamental transmission of the vibration when playing
Mm.
or singing is so incredibly powerful. And you can get that with cans. I mean, you can put on headphones and get some of
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
especially the bone conducting ones.
Right, right. And I know like for people who are deaf, they sometimes, they put their hands on the
Yeah.
floor, they feel it and they can feel the vibration. But like was there a particular instance or was there something that when you were healing that it was like, oh, this helped, like this really, I want to use this to help other people. Like what flipped that switch for you?
Yes, the actual sort of encouragement for that came as a gift.
Uh,
I have, as many of us have, been in therapy for a while, and my therapist at the time saw one of my one-man shows and said, "Bill, would you do this for my small group?" And she had a small group of other therapists,
uh,
and so I gave the performance for them. They helped me to realize that the power of what was going on in this performance was more than just a nice story. So I'm a
hmm.
creator, right? So you tell everything in the form of a story. Even a concert is a story.
Right.
And uh, that opened the door to working with caregivers for Alzheimer's and dementia. And that opened the door to working with
Oh,
post-traumatic stress veterans. And that opened the door to working with homeless people. And along the way,
um,
other like people in normal life who aren't
hmm.
experiencing great trauma started to jump up and say, "Bill, what is this all about? Can you help me?" So
Mm.
yeah, I owe it all to therapy, Sam. But it's
Or
been a gradual awareness,
yeah,
but it,
yeah.
it has become my mission to be the voice for encouraging people to bring music more closely to their care.
Mm, mm. A, a long time ago, I don't know, a long time, a few years ago, I can't remember when, whether it was before the pandemic or after the pandemic, I had a gentleman on my show who was not a professional musician, but he played guitar and he went to a hospital to see I don't know, I think one of his parents or something, and it would play guitar for him, and then one of the nurses asked him if, oh, could you play it for this person who's like on dementia, was Alzheimer's or something, and play for them and they would calm down. And then he started volunteering and he would just sit in people's rooms and would interact with them and he'd just play music for them. And he said how like their whole being shifted.
Yep. Every time.
Yeah.
People have come out of comas to music. I can share an article with
Oh,
you by Ted Gioia that
really?
explains how this works, right? This is happening all around us. It's amazing to me that more people aren't aware, right?
Yeah.
Because we need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so I'm just curious. So you started, you did this, group for your therapist. You started getting, doing things for different groups, different people. Um, how long did it take before you decided, like you realized like you really had something here and you wanted to dive more fully into it?
How long? It's been a lifetime, and I'm still diving into it. The opportunity that really sort of triggered me to do this more consciously came with an organization called Guitars for Vets. And Guitars for Vets
Uh,
teaches veterans with post-traumatic stress to play the guitar. No music
mhm.
therapy involved, no board certified music therapists here, but playing that guitar helps you process post-traumatic stress. And the research we have
Um,
since then indicates that it's not really post-traumatic stress, it's post-traumatic growth. So that pain, that trauma that you're experiencing, our systems deal with that really well, provided that we allow them
mm,
to. And we've been pushing back against trauma
mm,
and pain and embrace it, embrace the suck, as we like to say,
mm,
and do that with a modality that will change you.
mm,
EMDR,
mhm.
tapping, or music. Yeah, pick a modality, but we're
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good at processing that. Ryan Holiday has written about this in all of his Stoic books over and over. this is now sort of common knowledge.
Yeah.
So seeing that happen with veterans right in front of me playing the guitar was transformative, and it really got me off the
Mm,
dime to where I started Music Care Incorporated, and really put my entire will and being behind this.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and like the work of Peter Levine, all about the somatic experiencing and
Yep.
stuff. It's really there's so much out there to help and support people.
Yeah.
Um, okay, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, um, I just want to ask you, you described Music Care Inc. as a for-purpose corporation, what that is, and then what was the genesis of Musimorphic and what is that all about? Okay.
You got it.
All right, wonderful. So everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. Our guest this hour is Bill Protzmann, musician extraordinaire, and we will be right back in just a moment.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So Bill, in your bio, it says in 2011, you launched Music Care Inc., a for-purpose corporation. What does that mean?
Oh, what a great question. I like to lead by example. And to do that in a capitalist society is demanding, because we hear a lot about the negative aspects of capitalism. But by offering a through line for anyone who does business with Music Care, where they know that some portion of what we're doing is not going in our pockets, it's going back to organizations that need it, nonprofits. I think that's an important thing for us these days.
Yeah.
If more of the giant companies had that sort of through line, we'd be in a better place. This is not my idea. The advocate for this is none other than Dan Pallotta, who is also a musician, but who led an incredible organization for a while that raised so much money for things like cancer, Race for the Cure, whatever, all of those big rides. That was Dan's idea, but it got the organizations that were receiving the funds so scared about it because it was costing, a lot of money to raise millions of dollars. So Dan's idea is that businesses can do this. Like, we can apply the business principles to how we fund social awareness, social issues, healthcare. Just like there's so many ways that this could work. So I've known about Dan for a long time. His TED Talk, I think, was back in the 2000s. And it encouraged me to do a for purpose. There are some states in the United States where you can legally do this for purpose tax structure. It's not everywhere yet. There's B Corps out there, the B Corp
Mhm.
organization that certifies companies, which is a rigorous vetting
Yeah, yeah,
for a
it's
give back. But you've heard the names. Patagonia does this
yeah,
very
yeah.
openly. There are others that do, and I wanted to be part of that. This is important to me. So we give back. Our give back is to veterans, to homelessness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, there's a there's a need for this in the world, and this kind of awareness is something that, while it's not, I don't lead with it. It's part of what we are, part of our ethos.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't often talk about it on the show, but the radio station on Talk Radio, we support sort of two causes at the moment. Charity water, because I'm a big believer that, like, water is a basic right, and
Oh yeah,
you need drinking water just to survive. So, like, everyone should have access to drinking water. And when we also support Girls Inc., which is a nonprofit for helping inner city disadvantaged girls like get better education, better services. And I just feel like, actually we did it a couple few years ago. We haven't like revoted, but I had all the hosts of the network vote on, like, we had a small list of like nonprofits that we nominated, and that was the one that got the most votes. So that was the one
perfect.
we support. So tell us about Musimorphic.
So Musimorphic is where I put a stake in the ground and said, I'm going to separate now from the intervention side of music
Hmm.
and move toward the invitation side of music. There's so much work that's happening in intervention, and I'm going to mention music therapy again, but board certified
Hmm.
music therapists, sound healing, sound baths, whatever, all of these
Hmm.
things that are about stopping the pain
Mm,
are so essential right now, because until you
right,
realize that you can, you're going to be in pain.
right.
So hooray for intervention. And I'd done a lot of that work, as you know, with
Hmm.
post-traumatic stress veterans and homeless people, people in recovery. And I still do volunteer in that area. But my big curiosity with Musimorphic is, how can it change us? How can it transform us? What is the opportunity that we
Mm,
have after we're pain-free, right?
hmm.
Like they say, what is normal anymore?
Right.
And it's no mistake to me that Musimorphic coincided with the pandemic, and that looking forward to see what's possible with this music thing, this technology that we call
Mm,
music, is a really important area right now where there are not many pioneers. Uh,
right,
so I accepted the challenge, and Musimorphic is all about pioneering that space. What can we do in the spiritual consciousness space, right?
right.
What can we,
So,
I
so
mean, what
what
can we
what
actually
what
do?
have you found we can do in this space?
Oh my gosh. So you're going to love this, listeners. Uh, Law of attraction came to my awareness fairly early. But alongside that came this, I don't want to say it's mind over matter. We called it that for a while.
Hmm.
As a man thinketh, so he is, right? Those are obviously part of what our intention brings to us. So
Hmm.
having clear intentions is a very powerful part of the healing journey. It's also a very powerful part of the invitational journey, the heroic journey.
Hmm.
And those who are doing this work, interestingly enough, this relates to quantum physics and quantum entanglement that I mentioned earlier, have discovered that 17 seconds of focus helps to start the process of receiving. So you have an
Mm,
intention to receive something, you need to you need to bring your attention to it for 17 seconds, which is the minimum threshold. If you can do it 4 times that, 68 seconds, then you're in the sweet spot. Well, I have yet to find a piece of music that lasts only 17 seconds.
yeah.
And it turns out that by aligning your intentions, your willingness to receive, to put it in today's terms,
Mm,
uh, by aligning your intention with music, you're able to bring your awareness for a lot longer than 68 seconds.
hmm.
Because
Hmm.
as long as you are in the music with your intention, uh,
Mm,
you're open, you're welcoming
mm,
it. And not only are you welcoming it, like thinking about it up here, but head, heart, body, and soul, you're feeling it in the heart.
mm,
Your physical being is aligned. All the molecules are lined up with all the vibrations and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we can get into that, but you're physically aligned, right? That's
mm,
all cool. But the most important part of this is that you're spiritually aligned. All the stuff that science
mm,
doesn't measure yet is also aligned with your intention as you are experiencing it within music. And
mm,
music is the only modality that does that. I
Hmm.
mean, it incorporates everything. It incorporates the somatic, it incorporates the mental, the neurological, it incorporates the emotional, uh, and all the stuff that we don't measure, which I call
Yeah.
spiritual, thanks nod to science. But way beyond that, I mean, musicians can grapple with paradox. We know that we can experience multiple emotions simultaneously, and it's not
Yeah.
scary. Uh, all of these wonderful things that we can say about what music does, yeah, they're there. And
Mm.
pinching that off by taking a pill, I mean, hey,
Yeah.
so maybe your pain's gone, but now what? Uh,
Yeah.
and you know, and I
Mm.
respect that because pain isn't fun,
Yeah.
but there's so much more. There's just so
Yeah.
much more. And why are we waiting? I mean, we have this opportunity, right?
So what have you seen? Like, have you seen people actually shift from engaging this way? Like what have you seen in real life?
I have the great sort of privilege of hanging out with people at a very high-end resort that's all about health and wellness
Hmm.
every week. It's one of my outside jobs. And by the way, I'm very glad to mention the name because the Golden Door has a give back and they're for purpose, just like
Ah,
Musimorphic is. So that alignment turned out to be really wonderful.
perfect.
Their give back is to get out in front of primarily sexual abuse of women and trafficking. I love to
Mm.
have a give back. Anyway, the people who come to this resort are special. They have the means, of course, to be there, but they also have, in some ways, the luxury of being able to look beyond the pain, right?
Mm.
Beyond the business, uh, beyond the bank account. They're in a place where they're open to some spiritual transformation. And one of the great joys of working with people in that environment is that you can see the lights come on. You know when it happened.
Mm.
And as we listen together to the music that individual people choose, the music they love, you can see this new awareness coming into their face. Their visage changes.
Mm.
And many times it's like watching the child come out, right? Watching the child come out to
Mm.
play. Many times they're tears because it's an overwhelming emotional moment when you realize that music is doing these things to you, right? And you welcome them, you receive them.
Right.
And not only do you receive them, they change you. You can get the feel that the spine tingling happens, the ASMR. Uh, all of these physical sort of symptoms indicate that that change has taken place. And it's beautiful to watch that, Sam. It's
Hmm.
beautiful to be the facilitator for that. Uh, Knowing
So
that it's music that's doing it is even more
right.
important, though, you know?
I have a question though about one thing. You say they pick the music, so there's not like a specific kind of music that does this. It
Right.
sounds like so what is it? Because I mean, you can be just walking down the street listening to music on your phone and you're not necessarily going to have that experience.
True. Yes, there's an amount of attention that you can bring to it that will change things. So the research that we have says that and this is music therapy research, but the
Mhm.
music that is most powerful for you is the music you love.
Ah,
So once we can discover what that music is in that particular moment, we can use that.
hmm,
And that's not hard to do, but it does involve a little bit of questioning to find out where you are right now, and
hmm,
then allow the part of you that's the subconscious part, not the favorite choosing pattern matcher part, but the part of you that says, oh, this is the music that I'm resonating with right now, to let
hmm.
that come up. Um, that's that's the power right there. That's the power of music.
Ah.
And you know
And you
what?
said it's what's resonating with me right now, so it doesn't
I
have
know.
to be the same kind of music all the time.
No, no, no. I mean, there are people who will go back to, I think it's because they've been told they have to have music at 432 hertz, right? Or they
Yeah.
have to have a, the solfeggio tone of for love. Fine, great. Um, but I have had very few of those kinds of people.
Hmm.
Most people will go back to a song that was important to them in adolescence, or maybe a song that
Hmm.
happened as they were married, or some important moment of life will have that music for them. And that music, that kind of music is so much more powerful than a tone.
Yeah.
I said humming earlier. I'll stand by that, but it's not about the pitch or the frequency or it's about what's working on you holistically. What do
Hmm.
you experience with this music that you love, that's part of you already?
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I was growing up in high school, the music that was most impactful for me was, I guess, what they consider now classic rock
Yeah, right on.
or like the music of the 60s and 70s, which, some of that can be pretty hard beat. You wouldn't think of that as healing music necessarily, but the lyrics, the memories around it mean quite a lot to me.
Yeah, so you have to bring all of that comes in, right?
Right.
And that's what we're talking about with head, heart, body, and soul, because all aspects of it, the head needs to hear the lyrics, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the body needs to feel the beat, and the heart needs
Right.
to resonate with the emotions that are connected to all of that, right?
Mm,
And all of those things are really vastly important to us as we process music.
mm, Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, Bill, we have to take our last break of the show. When we come back, I'd love to hear a little bit more about like the transformational power of this. Like, what have you seen in people that you've worked with? Like, how have they transformed after having this kind of experience with music? Okay.
Definitely.
Awesome. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time with fascinating guests like my guest this hour, Bill Protzmann. And we'll be right back to tie it all up in just a moment.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So, Bill, we get the idea of the transformative power of music, but how have you seen it like actually transform someone's life?
This is such a great question, and I get to witness so many of these transformations regularly. There's a whole slew of them on my website. One of those testimonials comes from a guy who was having cancer treatment, and during his infusions, he just independently, without telling me or anything, he listened to my CD.
Hmm.
I wasn't around, but he was familiar with what I was teaching at the time, and this music resonated with him somehow, right? He's cancer free.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that I did any of that, but I was glad to be there with him virtually during that process. I'm glad that he found the
Right.
music was soothing and calming and all of that. Um, I'll never know how many people heard it, but for a while, that same CD was the music on hold for the Child Protective Services Division of the County of Orange in California. So if
Wow.
you can imagine calling in, somebody had realized that they needed to change up their music, right? Because people who are
Right.
calling into Child Protective Services are often very stressed.
Right.
So I was grateful that came my way. Um,
Hmm.
one of the other ways that you see this as a performer is watching in the audience, what's happening to people as they actually listen to music. And if you happen to
Mm,
play something that changes them, you can see that change taking place as you watch
mm,
your audience, right?
yeah.
Um, but more personally, to get it down to a personal level, I have seen veterans in Guitars for Vets pick up the guitar, and combat hardened veterans who are just, like as grim as it gets,
Yeah.
scraped off the street, addicted, begin with the guitar and just dissolve into tears.
Mm,
Something has changed inside of them, right? And it's like a bell you can't unring. Once you've had that experience, you want more of it, right?
right.
And that's not anything I'm doing except handing a guitar to a veteran and saying, "Hey, let's play some music here." Um,
Yeah.
those kinds of experiences just get into you, and uh, and they motivate me to want to do more of that kind of thing. Um, there's so much research out there about what music therapy is doing. I like to refer back to Alive Inside, which is a documentary that was made years ago by music therapists, playing music for people in memory care. And these are people with
Uh,
no effect, and you can play music for them that they love, and they'll come alive with that and start to communicate and be, you know,
mm,
conversant for a moment or two. I've had some experience with dementia in family and friends. And I got to tell you, Sam, there's resistance
mm,
when all
really?
it takes is just the willingness to make a little music together, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. The last thing I want to mention is a guy that I met, I'm still friends with, when I was doing volunteer work with homeless people, is he deals with schizophrenia.
Okay.
And the only way that he can dial himself down to a level where he can function and talk with the rest of us is to stack up multiple binaural beats, because that slows his brain down enough where he can
Um,
be like, quote, normal. And that's a tool. He uses it all the time. So the music that many of us would turn away from or think is too much, metal is a good example of that, especially all the genres of metal that are out there. Oh, what's
mhm.
that?
Yeah.
Hip hop is another one. That music can bring us to a place where we are able to be uh, unaffected for a while
Mm, mm,
by all of the crazy that's around us, whether that's a
right.
mental or emotional issue, or just the danger of being, living in certain parts of the world.
Yeah.
Hip
Yeah.
hop
Yeah. Yeah.
can give you comfort in that way. Uh,
Mm,
we've talked a lot about memory care here, but the ability of music to relieve pain is profound, particularly at end of life. And I've had the great privilege of performing live for people near the end of life, and
oh, wow.
allowing them to be in a place with their loved ones where they can um, feel good, I guess is a good way of saying that. And you can see the change take place on their faces as well during the performance.
Mhm. I see we have a new loyal listener. Shahin Mia says, awesome. Um, so you briefly mentioned it. We only have a couple of minutes left, but how do you work with people? What does your organization do now? And so like how do people like work with this?
So there are two ways that I sort of show up in the world. One is as an educator, because
Hmm.
there's quite a bit about music that's fundamental that most people don't understand.
Hmm.
With that understanding and education, then comes the consultative part of what I do, which is how do we
Mm,
apply that? If you're a business owner, how do we apply this in your business? If you're if you're trying to solve a group issue, how do we work with your group to resolve that issue musically?
mm,
Um, the opportunities for that are so vast right now with all the divisiveness in the world. But music goes below that. It gets to a foundational level where all of what we think
mm,
and do is motivated by this more fundamental thing that's at the core of who we are. And music
mm.
unlocks that. So being able to work with those groups or with individuals who are doing that is a great privilege as well.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Bill, I really appreciate you taking your time to come on my show today and talk about
Please.
this. I think, uh, music is such an important topic, and the fact that we think of it as just something nice to help us relax, but it's so much more, and
So
it
much.
can be so much more for us. If people want to learn more about your work, learn more about what you do, where would they go?
There are so many ways. If you're watching this right now, you can see Musimorphic, and the spelling is right
Yeah,
there above my head. If
yeah,
not, it'll be in the show notes. There's
yes.
musimorphic.com, of course. The best way of finding sort of a summary is to use the link tree, though, and I'll make sure that you have that for your show notes as well, because the link tree lets me offer a whole bunch of different things like individuals, groups. There's content. Of course, there's tons of music out there. So all the social links to all the music streamers are there. I'm on Spotify and Apple Music and all the places where music is played. And there's plenty of YouTube videos. So it's, I've been at this a while. So it's 30 years of content for you to consume. We got to do something different with that phrase.
Yeah.
All of it original, authentic. The albums that are out there were completely created in the moment, no AI involved. So there's many ways to do that, but musimorphic, of course, .com or Google me, Bill Protzmann. You'll find plenty of stuff.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Bill. Well, one last question before we trail off. What's next for Bill Protzmann?
It's happening right now. I have some incredible multimedia opportunities that are happening live, and I'm sort of advising on one of those projects right now, and it's fascinating to watch the immersive power of music take place.
Yeah, these immersive experiences are becoming more and more popular, and I'm seeing more and more of them. So wonderful. Well, thank you, Bill. I wish you the best. I really appreciate what you do and how you do it. So thank you for coming on the show today. And of course, thank you, my loyal listeners, for tuning in every week. Without you, there is no show. And don't forget, if you did miss any part of today's show, you can always catch the replay on talkradio.nyc, on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and of course, all over social media on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Twitch. Thank you all for tuning in. Coming up right after the show, of course, is Dr. Richard Lewis Miller and his show, Mind, Body, Health, and Politics, followed later today at 5 p.m. with Frank Harrison and his show, Frank About Health. And thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you all next week.